Here we go. So, my name is Annika Erickson Pearson, and I am the volunteer series manager of this Path to Ottawa. I know many of you who are here through my other hat, which is managing the community of practice on environment, climate, conflict, and peace. And I'm really glad to get to participate in the Environmental Peacebuilding Association's Path to Ottawa in this way to keep sort of building these moments of sort of pathways of coherence across the environmental peacebuilding community. This session will be held in English, but for anybody who's here or anybody watching the recording in the future, I just want to have a big open door policy on sending in your questions in any other language. With the beauty of AI, I can now read and respond in many different languages and would be glad to interact, however is most helpful. The goals of this session are twofold. First, our goal is just to share clear information about what the Path to Ottawa is, how to get involved, what the criteria are, what does it look like to participate, to apply, etc. To share that information. And then the second goal of the session is also to provide a little bit of space to connect with each other. Again, I'll stop the recording at that part. To provide a little bit of space to connect with each other, to talk about potential ideas, and sort of build that momentum into the Path to Ottawa. So no problem if you need to keep your camera off. It's all good. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. So without further ado, I will provide a little bit of an overview going back and forth with Carl. Then there'll be space for question and answer, whatever questions you have about applications, proposals, formats, everything. And then, like I said, we'll have a discussion as a group. Any quick questions before we dive into that agenda? Awesome. Okay. Well, what is the Path to Ottawa in general? Very simply put, it is a series of events, workshops, conversations, discussions, dialogues in the lead up to the fourth International Conference on Environmental Peacebuilding, which will be held in June 2026 in Ottawa, Canada. The Environmental Peacebuilding Association is the host of the series, is the curator, is the sort of structure holder, if you will. And the path officially kicks off now in June 2025 and will run until March 2026. Now, we are blessed in this here afternoon CET session to have Carl here from the Environmental Peacebuilding Association. And I'm wondering if I can turn over to you, Carl, to articulate what is the rationale for the Path to Ottawa? Why does it exist? And where did it come from?
So I'll start with where it came from. I think it's evolved substantially since then, but it started as we were planning for the second conference in Geneva. Well, the second conference that was supposed to be in Geneva until COVID hit. And then COVID looked like it was passing. We were very excited, and we had postponed the conference a bit in the hope that it would pass. And we thought, well, how do we keep people engaged? Well, let's have a series of events, and this can also help to inform the dialogue. And so it was very much of an ad hoc innovation at the time, but it really worked. And so when we did the third conference and now the fourth conference, we've really built out that innovation of necessity to be something that we really showcase and value. And part of this, a large part of it, is to engage a lot of people in the process, to help think through what are the issues that people are struggling with, where there are innovations, what do we have to share, and so it's really meant to increase the voices, and it's not just of the association, it's kind of broadly. And there is hopefully a nice benefit that it gets people excited about the conference and they want to engage in the conference. That's kind of the broad view of things. I would say that we have also kind of one of the things is just from the very beginning of the conference, even the idea of the conference, we wanted the conference to be different. And I think that it's different in two key ways. One, it really is about community. And this kind of extends that communitarian process. The other is that it's not just about talking, that we want this to be different from kind of more traditional academic conferences. And one of the things that we do is that we try to showcase initiatives, concrete initiatives that advance how we think about environmental peace building, how we do environmental peace building. And these are everything from toolkits to an oral history to a new journal to so it's it's kind of building the architecture and the path to Ottawa as for the other paths. These often are part of the process of building up, brainstorming, developing the contents of the initiatives. Sometimes the initiatives are separate, but the other thing that I would say is, and I think this is maybe more important now, there is a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of nastiness, not just in the US. And I view the path to Ottawa in part as an opportunity to provide that moral support to our colleagues and to kind of keep people in this space and to but then also in the longer term, the visioning. It's like, there's a question of how do we get through this, but the other question is, where are we going? And I think that often there is a the path to Ottawa is a lot of these emerging questions of where we're going. But I think I'd like to kind of build that up, not just where are we going in the moment, but kind of the longer term arc and kind of thinking about these events as stepping stones toward that, or at least stepping stones toward figuring out what that arc looks like.
Absolutely. I think if I were to summarize that in 3 points, I would say it's about building energy, momentum, connections. It's about building a dialogue, a substantive dialogue and content and discussion, what we're learning. And it's about providing space for collective processing and, as you say, sort of moral support. And so the path itself, and thanks again, Carl, it's helpful to get the sort of the story of how we've arrived where we are and where we're sitting. So the path itself is a series of, I mean, put most simply, it's a series of events, initiatives of conversations. And what I will do is just kind of talk you through how it will work, how it works to participate. And then I will share my screen and even go through the application so we can talk through what all of the different moving pieces and parts actually concretely look like. So at the very highest level, it looks like EnPAx in the form of me, the volunteer series manager, and our stellar volunteer series coordinator, Dylan, who cannot be here today. We are here to provide structure and support to kind of help keep the process moving, to create the scaffolding of the series. But all of you are the leads who develop sessions, who host sessions, who really curate and carry these conversations forward. So you will come up with an idea. You will submit and share your idea. We'll work together a little bit to, if you need support, we can provide a bit of support. If it's an online session, then we'll provide some tech support even. But you'll be then the one hosting your event, conference, conversation, dialogue, whatever it is. And we'll also provide a bit of support in terms of amplification and communications. Now, I'll get much more into the details of what that looks like, but I'm just going to put in the chat here. And welcome to those of you who are just coming in. You're here right on time. What I'm going to do is share my screen and just go through this process. Now, this is the information session. So this is the opportunity both here and on recording to provide sort of the highest degree of detail and information possible. So I am literally going to go through this, which was very fun when we did it this morning. So you have here, this is our Google form. If this is essentially the short version of what Carl and I have just spent 10 minutes saying, the one paragraph version. Very importantly, who can apply? Uh, Both individuals and institutions can apply to host sessions. So, for example, if you work for an institution and you want to host a session in your individual capacity, I work for UNEP and I want to host a session that is not necessarily officially UNEP led, you can still host in your personal capacity. Maybe you're in transition between jobs, as Carl mentioned. This is a time of enormous transition and uncertainty. So we want to make it clear that you don't have to have a formal institutional affiliation to participate. But what you do need to have is a member of the Environmental Peacebuilding Association as a part of the sort of co-hosting team of the session. We can get into that a little bit later of what exactly does that mean, but members of the association, you can either have an individual membership and some institutions are an institutional member of the association. And I'm happy to take questions on that as we get a little further. Now, what do the events look like? Number one, they should address a theme related to environmental peace building. Feels the most self-explanatory of all of the all of the points. Number two, at least two contributing speakers or facilitators are required. It cannot just be you delivering a 45-minute speech. You need to find a friend to provide an additional input. Find somebody else. We need at least two contributing speakers or facilitators. But number three, formats are flexible. You can have a panel, you can have a round table, you can have a fully participatory workshop with no speakers and just a facilitator. You could have an artistic performance. You could have a film screening. You could have all kinds of different formats. They're all very much welcome. And in that same vein, number four, events can be in person, virtual, or hybrid. We are here to provide the link and tech support for virtual events. For hybrid, we can talk details of exactly what that looks like and what you need. And then in person, as much as I would love to come everywhere where there would be an in-person event and provide in-person support to you, I don't think the carbon footprint would be the wisest choice in this day and age. But you can host in-person events. Number five, very importantly, it is possible to propose a series of two or more related sessions. So I remember from the road to Geneva, the first time we did this back in 2021, there was a multi-part dialogue on decolonizing environmental peace building. So there were three different sessions held about 2 weeks apart online with different speakers, and it kind of built the dialogue from session to session. It was very meaningful. So multi-part series are very much welcome, or maybe it's one in person, one online, one hybrid, mix and match however you'd like. But also importantly, sessions can be what we've said here is co-build with other conferences. So what that means is if, for example, you are hosting an event at Geneva Peace Week in October, you can also submit that event to the Path to Ottawa. And what the Path to Ottawa offers is that sort of sense of amplification of the event, but it also means that it gets sort of layered and woven into the fabric and texture of this dialogue and content and substantive building towards the fourth conference on environmental peace building. So that's what that co-build means, is that maybe you're already hosting another event in August somewhere else, but it's related to the topic. Feel free to send it our way. Number six, while sessions typically run from about 1 hour to 2 hours, longer sessions may be proposed. Maybe you want to host entire day-long symposium. Maybe you want to host a half-day workshop. You can, again, follow the format that works best with the content and the goals that you want to achieve. Number seven, sessions that are held online. so virtual sessions, should be recorded and uploaded to the Environmental Peacebuilding Association YouTube channel unless otherwise requested. We understand some conversations may be better off had under Chatham House rule. That's fine. But please do otherwise plan on having it recorded, and then we upload and collect. And you can even go back and see the sort of road to Geneva or the path to The Hague from previous years. Finally, events in languages other than English are encouraged. At the other information session, we already had an event that's being planned entirely in Spanish. It's very much welcome. We strongly encourage sessions in different languages, and we'll just simply indicate the language that it will be held in. On interpretation, unfortunately, we as the Environmental Peacebuilding Association are not able to provide financial support for interpretation. However, for virtual events, we will be able to provide the Zoom functionality for interpretation. So if you bring your own interpreters, we'll gladly set that up in the back end so that you have the interpretation function, but cannot provide funding for interpretation. Okay, that gets through our criteria. What about the timeline? As we say here, every effort is going to be made to review every application within 2 weeks of submission, even sooner than that. But I do want to note so that we have a good timeline to not only plan the event, but really disseminate and get a good crowd there. We'd encourage everybody to submit proposals at least 6 to 8 weeks in advance of the time that you'd like to host the event. Of course, maybe you are hosting an event on environmental peace building in 2 weeks. Send us an email. We'll see if we can, figure out what we can do with it. But this is, again, a rule of thumb. At least we're hoping for at least 6 to 8 weeks in advance so that we have enough time for dissemination. We broke our own best practice by launching this info session notification a week ago. And, between the two info sessions, have only had about 20-25 people. And so you see the difference in what a week or two can make in terms of amplification. Okay, and then you have our email address here. I discovered earlier that I left my personal email address lower down in the form, but I just want to note if you have questions, go ahead and contact this email address because both Dylan and I can access it and make sure that we get back to you quickly. Just going to quickly zoom through here. Name, first and last name, email address. Again, organizational affiliation. If you don't have one or you want to apply in your personal capacity, you can write NA for not applicable. We've asked 2 different questions about geography. One question about where you are based now. And then one question, we know that people move around in our field. I am an American living in Switzerland, so I may prefer to indicate that I'm an American here, and I may prefer not to. It's absolutely just an optional question, but if you'd like to put in your nationality, you are welcome to. I'm also just curious to hear a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your interest and what brings you to the environmental peace building world. Then we get into the good stuff, information on your proposed event, the event title, a blurb here describing the event, your objectives, any proposed speakers, format. You do not have to have a 7-page developed concept note with every single moving piece detailed out, but as much detail as you can give, the better. We would also invite you, if you do have co-organizers, to provide their information in this section here. If you haven't heard a confirmation from them, just write to be confirmed. I know I really want to have Albert on my panel. He hasn't confirmed yet. Instead of volunteering him for the job, just write to be confirmed right next to his name. And we also just want to strongly encourage collaboration. Of course, if you have a specific topic that you and your organization would like to discuss with a couple of internal colleagues, that's great. But I want to strongly encourage everybody to go out and find a couple of like-minded partners that you could develop a conversation across. I think that cross-pollination is where the magic happens. And then, as I mentioned before, we do require that there is a Environmental Peacebuilding Association member on every proposal. And so this is where you would indicate their information. Now, again, here you'll put in the anticipated medium, online, in person, hybrid, etc. Timing, when it will be, how long it will be. And then I'll just articulate these 2 points. Can your event be open to the public, meaning anyone who registers can attend? And can it be fully free of charge? So if you are co-billing with a conference and the conference either requires registration that's free or requires registration with a fee, we'd like that to be indicated. It's fine. We just need to provide clear information to Path to Ottawa attendees and folks following so that they know what they can and cannot attend. And then whether or not your event can be recorded. Finally, I'll just end on this. There are a couple of things that we commit to do, and then there are a couple of things that we would ask a session host to commit to do. Things that we commit to do are to disseminate your event. We will provide a common website and a platform where we'll collate all of the information, all the events. We'll make sure that it's updated with information that you provide us. We will also share events across the newsletter, which goes out to a few thousand people at least. Carl, you can type it in the chat if I, oh, 5,000. Okay, yeah. So we'll send it out. We'll make sure that it gets disseminated. We will also provide feedback on proposed themes, agenda, speakers, etc. That's in that proposal. We'll be happy to provide that feedback. And you can also indicate what kind of feedback you want. If you want facilitation tips, you can ask for it. If you need a speaker recommendation, you can ask for it. But we're here to also accompany that process if helpful to you. As I mentioned, we'll support outreach for the events. Keyword in that line being support. We do not have a full-fledged social media team, so we will not be able to make a full-fledged social media packet for every single event, but we will support your efforts in outreach. And then we will provide 2 templates. One is a template of a brief questionnaire that you can send, or that we'll ask that you send to attendees at the end of your event, so that we can collect that for monitoring, learning, and evaluation. And then we will also provide a template for you to fill out, capturing some key takeaways. And that's the way that we then get to the final bullet point, draw upon these events to inform the development of the conference. The second objective of the series is really, again, to build that dialogue and that substantive conversation over time. And finally, and then I'll stop this very long dialogue, again, worst practice facilitation tactic, talk for 20 minutes straight, is some of the points that we're going to ask you to commit to as a session lead. We ask you to commit to keeping the lines of communication open with us. It's really a shame when a beautiful, brilliant idea is submitted and then we never hear back from you, or we get kind of halfway through the process. So that you commit to communicating with us. Like I said, am an American, but I am based in Europe. I'm very aware that people go on vacation for 3 weeks at a time. Totally normal. I'll do the same, but just make sure that we know when these lines of communication are happening. 2, you commit to creating the agenda and inviting speakers to participate in your event. That's very much on you, not on us. You are the owner and captain of your destiny in terms of these events, and we want you to develop them in the way you see fit. You commit to promoting your event. You commit to submitting an event description to us no later than 4 weeks before the event for dissemination. On the plus side, I will not make up random things about your event to put in the newsletter, but that means on the negative side, if you send us nothing, we will not put anything out there. So we do ask that you commit to sending a description of the event. Almost to the last, you commit to facilitating or organizing the facilitation of the event. While we will be there for online events in terms of tech support, we will not be there in terms of facilitation. So make sure that you have a moderator lined up, or will moderate it yourself. And then, as those 2 templates that I outlined before, you commit to collecting feedback from the questionnaire template, and then you commit to sending us a brief report using that key takeaway template that we will provide. And then there's just the last one for GDPR, to make sure that you consent to sharing your data. All right. I am now done. I'm going to have a drink of water after my worst practice 20-minute monologue on the path to Ottawa. I would love to take any questions now. And again, I'm recording right now. So if you want to ask a question when we're not recording, just hang on to it. I'll stop the recording in a little bit. But yeah, any questions? Yeah, Gabriel, go ahead.
Yeah, are there a maximum number of events for the path?
No, there's not. We'll curate based on what comes in. I think if we receive requests to hold 12 events in the same day, we may talk to some of the event organizers and say, hey, let's figure out a way to maybe reschedule. But I think there's one line in here that maybe is a bit misleading, which is preference will be given to proposals that include multi-partner collaborations. We will work with everyone to try to bring your proposal to life. Really, if you propose something about the history of hockey, then that's not an environmental peace building, so we probably won't work with it. But if you have an environmental peace building angle, the history of hockey as a tool for peace building in a context of climate change, we got it. So we will work with everybody to try to make it happen. And if that leads to tons of events, that's great.
And I
Anyway,
think in the sorry, just in the past we've had 30 to 40 events. So it's not there's a lot of absorptive capacity.
yep. And there may be some months where we have one, and there may be some months when we have 10. And that's okay. Emily, you are muted in case you are.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah, thank you. Hi, good afternoon from Cameroon, and it's a pleasure to join the session. I recently joined EnPAx through a colleague who is in Africa, who shared the opportunity. So I signed up the account. I run a foundation in Cameroon called Dennis Mickey Foundation, and we do peace building work, environmental peace building work, especially around water access, clean oceans, waste management programs. So this is very interesting for us to submit an IDM. I have one or two questions. The first one is, being new in the platform and also trying to create collaborations, how is it possible to create programs or activities with other members from the network? For instance, I've had information about how to apply, but what if we wanted to maybe do an activity together with another member on the platform, maybe an online event? And then how do we get to know the profiles of the members? Is there like a database for members where we can look at and say, okay, we'll reach out to this partner and propose that we think we could do something together and an activity together? Second, it's about, I think I'll even have three questions. The second is about in-person activities, because online activities are mostly low cost. So I'm trying to figure out to ask here if there is like a funding available for activities to be implemented, especially in person, because for online it's low cost with little budget, but in person usually carries more cost. So is there going to be like funding available for selected ideas or activities? Then the third, when I look at the title part 2, Ottawa, so I am wondering, is it that these are pre-events before a global activity happening in Ottawa? And if that is supposed to be the case, when is this activity planned to happen in Ottawa that maybe brings us together after all the national, international activities we're implementing? Thank you.
Sorry, my computer froze for a minute there. Thanks, Emily, and it's really nice to meet you. I may start from the last question and work my way backwards, and then go over to Carl to provide accurate information. These are indeed a series of events leading up to an in-person conference, or I guess a hybrid conference, partially hybrid. There'll be an in-person aspect and online aspect. Which is the 4th International Conference on Environmental Peacebuilding, which will be held in June 2026 in Ottawa, Canada. There will be online aspects of it as well. And more information, I'll throw the link in the chat to information about the conference. And the webpage for the conference is being built out, and there's more and more info being added over time. So that's that. Funding support for in-person activities, and again, Carl, please correct me if I am wrong. At this time, we do not have financial support for in-person activities. That is not to say that we will not find a funder who would love to fund this kind of thing, but it is not looking incredibly likely in the current funding landscape. So I would not count on it, but if it becomes available, we'll clearly inform everybody across the series. But again, unlikely, I would say. And then in terms of matchmaking between association members, I actually want to already just punt that question to Carl, because that question came up this morning, and I'm curious about how you approach it.
So I think in the immediate term on the matchmaking, I think the primary ways of doing this are through Annika and me, where you say, I'm really excited about this. I want to do this. Who might we be able to engage in this process? And that might introduce an additional step before you formally submit a proposal. Or you could submit a proposal and say, I would like to have somebody or somebody's. So you could do it either way, kind of reach out informally or submit with an expressed desire to have help in identifying people. So that's one path. A second path is through the interest groups. So if there are certain realms where you're that you're interested in, whether it's on law or disasters and climate change and resilience, or gender, or the Africa interest group. We have a dozen different interest groups and another one on urban environmental peace building that's emerging. So the interest group chairs can be very helpful in kind of helping to do that. And again, probably the best way to reach out on that is to reach out to me, and then I can connect you to the chairs and the people who are kind of broadly managing the interest groups. The longer term answer is that we ask members to fill in kind of certain questions, including profiles, and that leads to a membership directory online. And you say, please show me, please don't show me, and in the directory. And so you can, in principle, scan, see who else is interested in things. I say in principle because we rebuilt the website, and right now we have a directory, but it doesn't have the bios. And our web guru is kind of continuing to build out the website, prioritizing the conference, but also trying to build this out soon. So I would say in the next month or two, we should have a more proper online directory. And I'll use this as an opportunity to nudge him on getting that completed. So I think that's largely there are different pathways. And as Annika said, the email there, conference ad, that goes to Annika, goes to Dylan, it goes to me. And if you just want to use that, we can then we can follow up directly, both introducing you to people or with more specific suggestions.
Exactly how I answered it this morning. Good to know we're aligned. Any other questions? Okay, I may move to stop the recording in a minute, but Carl, go ahead.
I'm just curious, and maybe this is something that people could answer either on the recording or off the recording, but I'm curious if people have ideas, substantive ideas that they would like to float for possible events or series of events.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I am going to go ahead and just pause